pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we thank you for this day that you've given us, Lord. We thank you for us waking up in our right minds, Lord, being able to do the things that you have called us to do. And Lord, as we come together, Lord, making decisions about the city of Port St. Joe, we pray that you lead and guide us in making those decisions. And Lord, we like to say, ask that you bless the United States of America, bless the government, federal, state, and local. And all these things we ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And Jim, has the mayor called in?
Yes, sir. We had the mayor online.
Okay, for the record, our mayor is not with us today, but he is with us on the telephone, so he'll be participating via telephone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of City Commission to order, and we will start with our consent agenda. If everyone has had a chance to read the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve those. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes 4-0. We're going to rearrange this agenda just a little bit, if it's okay with everybody. We're going to move our city engineer up prior to the city attorney. Mr. Engineer? Yes. We can't hear you, Mayor.
All right.
Hold on.
First of all, thank you for filling in for me. I will be attending by telephone for discussion only. We're not voting on any motions made, and just be here for discussion only.
All right. The mayor says that he is here on the phone for discussion purposes only and will not be voting over the phone today. Is that correct, Mayor? All right. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Good afternoon. Quick update on the items we have. Stormwater master plan, we have received comments back from the Water Management District based on the submission of the draft master plan, and we're working on addressing those comments. They wanted us to dig into more detail, so for the coming weeks, we'll be preparing a response for Northwest Florida. The Port City Trail project's under construction. The aluminum bridge was delivered today, so they're working on the installation of that. The project looks good. I don't know if anybody's been by to take a look at the progress, but it looks really good out there. I think it's going to be a nice project. CBG sewer, contractor's currently working on the CIPP line, and I think the schedule still is as once that's complete. We've spoken at the last meeting. The last part will actually be the pipe bursting for the 6-inch, and I think that's scheduled middle to the end of March. So I'll be updating as soon as we have a better idea on when that'll be scheduled. Next on the list is Long Avenue Sewer and First Street Lift Station. Advertisement runs in this week, or is it already?
Yes, sir. We sent it to the paper last Friday on there, so we have a task order approved today for engineers to move forward with the project.
Right. So it's being advertised, and also on the agenda later is a proposal from Dewberry for CEI inspection, and that is, it is for the funding amount that was provided by SRF, so that is on the agenda for approval. And the last item on the list is the NRCS debris removal project bids were received yesterday. The apparent low bidder is Kaiser Kane. We bid that on a per cubic yard basis because there was no estimate provided from NRCS on the volume in that ditch. So over the next week, we received 7 bids. We'll be reviewing those packages for completion and make a recommendation to the city. So by the next meeting, we should have a recommendation on if everybody turned in the correct bid documents, and we'll be moving forward with that project.
You hearing that too? Okay. All right, does anyone have any questions for our engineer? If not, thank you, sir. And we'll move on to city attorney.
Yes, Commissioner, we have 3 items.
Can we go back just to one item on that? We didn't get a vote on the actual task order, sorry, for the actual CEI services on there for $197,000 for Dewberry.
You talking about RFP 2021-01?
No, sir. Go back to the First Street Lift Station, page 56 of your agenda, the actual task order itself.
No follow? Okay, I got you. All right, I will entertain a motion for construction, engineering, and inspection of Long Avenue utility improvements.
Motion to approve so we can get started.
Have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
Any opposition? Motion passes 4-0. All right, on to city attorney.
Yes, Commissioner, there's 3 items on the agenda today. The first is ordinance 584, which deals with annexation of parcel 03013-001R and parcel number 03017-005R. This involves city-owned property which lies within the boundaries of the county. I need you to call for a public discussion and then a motion and a vote to entertain the first reading.
Okay, let's open it up to the commission, and then we'll have the public come up and comment. Any comments or questions about ordinance 584?
My only comment is if we're going to move forward and hopefully one day supply the community with affordable housing and workforce housing, this is step 1. If you oppose step 1, in my mind, you would be opposing affordable housing and workforce housing. So I'm excited to see the city moving in that direction at this time.
Okay, yeah, and I'll just say, everybody knows where I stand on housing, workforce, and affordable. It's a dire need in our city, and whether or not, this is the project that we want to focus on next is kind of irrelevant. I think that we need to use all the land that we have available towards that goal. But this is a step in the right direction, and I'd like to kind of see this project, maybe, since it is in the county currently, that we all work together to maybe do a project that we can all agree on out there. That said, we'll open it up to public comment.
Commissioner, I'd just like to mention one thing, that yesterday via email, the city manager and I received a letter from the county attorney, Jeremy Novak, basically expressing the county's rejection of our request for this annexation. Just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay, and I believe the county attorney was going to try to be here today. I don't see him. So is there any comment from the public?
I have one question for our attorney.
Commissioner Ashbrook is correct.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, only thing I'd like to say is, of course, it is city-owned property, and we should, have all city-owned property in the city boundaries, and that's just a mistake made in the past. And so we need to move forward with it, and not only that, any success that we have in the city, will be success for the county. And they don't have to do anything. They don't have to spend any money. All they have to do is sit back and watch what we do. And I'm sure none of you guys, especially I, won't do anything to hurt the city. So all we're trying to do is help the city and move forward. And it's pretty simple. And the county sit back and reap the rewards. So I'm really not sure. I understand their concern, but anyway, it is what it is.
Commissioner.
Oh, my question is, I noticed in that email that the phrase request, that the city was requesting authorization or permission. In my mind, we're just following the steps of the Florida statute that sets up what we have to do to move forward with annexing property. But is it correct to call it a request, or is it just a procedure that we
It's just a
follow?
procedure. We are by statute, we are required to give them notification and request that we be allowed to annex it, but it's not the end all. And they let us know that they oppose it.
Right, in my mind, we were just giving notice of the city's plan to move forward
Correct.
and annex property owned by the city. And the statute
lays out the
That's a
steps that
requirement
we're,
of the
right,
statute.
and I just want to make that clear, we're not requesting permission, we're moving forward and
Basically
following the guidelines.
notifying them. of
Right,
Our
notify.
intent, or the city's
Okay.
intent.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
With all the, everyone talking about jobs that's coming in the city, you know, we have to have somewhere for people to stay. I mean, rental homes are full. Some homes are $300,000 or more. So we need to start looking at the men and women that's coming in to teach, to maybe work on the shipyard when that's done or whatever. But whatever we do to this property, you know, it doesn't matter because it's city property, you know, at the end of the day. So whether we build workforce or affordable homes on it or whatever, it's still city property. And I think that we have the right to annex it inside the city if we want. Now, I think that we need to get along with the county in doing this and talk and work some things out to see what's best for the city. But the bottom line is it's city property.
And I'll just say, I did get a phone call from Jeremy Novak and Michael Hammond this morning, and their only request was that we delay the process to have a meeting about it. This is only a first reading, so this would still allow for that time for the mayor and the chair to get together and have discussions about this. But I don't see any reason why we would hold up the forward momentum. We'd have to start the process all over again if we delayed it. Did you have something, Brett?
The only thing I was gonna mention was, I know we still got the Field of Dreams property too, as an option. I know you kind of push for that, you personally push for that in the beginning, so.
No, and again, I agree with you.
I don't wanna get bogged down, that's my main thing. That's what I want to say.
I think that the Field of Dreams is still an option. We're talking about sports complex, still have years and years before that comes to fruition. But right now, we just need to think about, I think, the working class people that put in the hard work and still need somewhere to live. I mean, well, in my community, we have situations where homes aren't being built fast enough so that people can get in, and it's causing a problem. So that's just my opinion about it.
And the county has focused the last two meetings pretty much exclusively on affordable housing. And one of the things that I found out is the St. Joe Company is supposed to be building 60 houses for rent, just about a quarter mile outside of town, up 71 on the left. So, you know, it may feel like we're fighting, but we're actually getting some things accomplished.
And
We're all focused on housing.
I think it's important for people to know that the county and the city is not fighting against each other. We're trying to work together. Some things people just don't agree on, and that's what it's all about. That's what making decisions is all about. So, and it takes time.
All right, if there's no more comment, we have one more comment. You could sign in and state your name, please. Actually, print your name.
I'm Ray Greer. My address is 2910 Cherry Forks Parkway, Tallahassee, Florida. And I am the city planner. I would like to add to this, because it's very important that we add in. We've got two pieces, two parcels here. And one of them is the city building department, and they're adjacent to each other. And the other one is the other property that was donated to the city by the St. Joe Company for workforce affordable housing. And both of these parcels are adjacent to the city. They are providing utilities from the city, and actually part of one of them is in the city. And so what we're doing is trying to go through, look at the future land use map, and make a cleanup of areas of the city like this, which is owned by the city and is not in the city. So the affordable housing, workforce housing parcel, that 58 acres, that actually is zoned agriculture. So you would have to do a land use change, it's not even zoned properly, and then it's given to the city, so the city actually has to be the one that undertakes it. So that's the reason they're both coming in. It's really, across the board map cleanup for the overall future land use map.
All right, anyone else from the public? Come on up.
Commissioners, Mr. Ashbrook, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Jeremy Novak, Gulf County Attorney. I was called this morning, asked to come over. Chairman Quinn was detained at school and had some issues with students, so I apologize for the informal nature starting with Blue Jeans. But I thank you for the opportunity. Just walked in, heard the end of the discussion. Chairman Quinn just asked me to come this morning real specifically to ask you all for the opportunity. The mayor's not here today, but to ask for the opportunity for them to move up the meeting that they had scheduled. I think Chairman Quinn spoke to you at your last meeting. I think tentatively Jim and Clint and the mayor have all tentatively scheduled, I think for the 25th of March, or somewhere around there, towards the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I had sent a letter on behalf of the county commission yesterday. Mr. Ashbrook, you're absolutely correct. The last two meetings at the county level, they have had a lot of public hearing and discussion about workforce housing. They also have talked about a 2-hour public hearing on a road abandonment from an annexation from 15 years ago. I think the chairman wanted me just today to come and ask for us to have an opportunity maybe to meet and move that up with the mayor and the staff, just so they can get out in front of this issue. I know that the city has some very deep, heartfelt feelings about the issue. I know the county commissioners have all expressed theirs, and they voted unanimously when the notice came through to send a response to the city. I think Chairman Quinn just asked me to come and offer to the four of you and the mayor is an opportunity to ideally have the staff and the chairman and the mayor meet as soon as possible, hopefully this week, and ideally talk about that issue and bring it back to both your boards, but then also more importantly to talk about the various issues possibly you could reach in a workshop. I know the city and the county have had productive workshops in the years past. I think they may have gotten away from it the last year or two with a hurricane and COVID and everything else that the communities have been dealing with. But I think the chairman wanted me to come, just ask for us to move it up and not wait 4 weeks. I know you've all noticed by statute, as the commissioner noted, it's also in your interlocal that we amended in 2013, that the interlocal agreement between the county and the city is that the city would notice the county each time they do that, and they would follow Florida statute. And the city is doing that thus far. But again, I think the purpose of the chairman today asked me to come, since he couldn't come himself, was to see if we could move that meeting up and then hopefully have a beneficial discussion between the staff and then lay out maybe an agenda for a workshop where the public can come participate in these hearings, get the city input from the residents, get the county input from the residents. I stood at this podium about 2 years ago for some public hearings with regards to Highland View, and the room was packed with regards to the issue of annexation. So we know the citizens feel passionately about it. I know what your commission does. I know what county commission does as well. But to have them get together and possibly discuss it, pick up where that discussion fell off a few years ago. And we the chairman felt it would be most beneficial for the mayor and the chairman to get together as soon as possible and see if we can find some mutual goals or an amicable resolution to this and some of the other issues that you have dealing with right now.
Jeremy, the mayor's actually on the phone. Mayor, if you're online, is there a time that would work for you this week? Would you be willing to meet?
I will be home Thursday evening. I'll be happy to meet with Chairman Quinn Friday morning. But you said well a while ago, there's no reason to delay the vote on the first reading today. And after that, we can discuss and, let the citizens of the city know. But beyond me, why would anybody be against it? And so I think it's important to move forward. Of course, love to work with the county, and I said it earlier, I'm not sure Attorney Novak was here at the time, but I'll say it again, our success is the county's success. We will not do anything to hurt our citizens, and all the county has to do is sit back and reap the rewards of our success. So I think we definitely should move forward today. I talked to Chairman Quinn in his living room before, so he knows how I feel about the city. And so I think you guys do the right thing.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So, do you want to have Michael reach out to our staff and arrange that for Friday?
Yeah, I'll absolutely do that after we leave here today.
Okay.
Just to I appreciate the mayor's comments. I think he's absolutely spot on when he says that as well as the city does, the community, the county does as well. With all the growth that's happening here, I think it would be a beneficial discussion. The one thing I wanted to ask, I know you're having your first reading. I know that I've heard the commissioners say there's no need to delay the first reading. Do you, in terms of the planning board and your advisory board, do they weigh in on the decisions on the city level? Do they provide you any kind of comments before you have your first readings?
Jim, is there anything on the PDRB agenda about this particular annexation?
The PDRB today will be reviewing the large scale, so they will be giving a recommendation on these parcels in reference to the large scale plan today.
So you'll have a second reading after you have your planning board. I think you noticed the date for later in the month. If
they move forward from the first, reading today, it will be here before this board on the 23rd. We move our regular meeting to the 23rd for consideration of it.
Okay, so we're clear, if we move for a first reading today, the PDRB is going to hear or discuss the points, pros and cons of the annexation.
No, so they're gonna discuss the large scale, the land use portion of it.
I got you. But we'll have an opportunity again to revisit this after the chair and the mayor have met. Is that all that you have, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, just want to thank the mayor for his availability. I'll go back and talk to the administrator and hopefully get something set up Friday morning.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Appreciate you, commissioners.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for a first reading on ordinance 584.
Motion to move forward.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? Any opposition? Hearing none, go ahead and read it. Motion passes 4-0.
Ordinance number 584, an ordinance providing for voluntary annexation of parcel ID number 03013-001R and parcel ID number 03017-005R, providing a legal description of lands to be annexed, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned by the property owner pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statute, providing for the redefining of the city boundaries to include said lands, making certain findings, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, you have the floor.
Next on the agenda, Commissioner, is Resolution 2021-02.
Can I make one quick comment or ask Jim to reach out to Chairman Quinn and set up a meeting Friday morning, 9 o'clock at Jim's office or hear whatever concerns they have? Can you do that, Jim?
Yes, sir, sure will. 9 o'clock on Friday morning.
You're off.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-02, and that deals with the CIP plan update.
All right, any discussion on the CIP plan? Has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? This is our 5-year capital improvement plan. Is that correct? Yeah, 5-year. Do you have any additions or deletions that we need to know about, or is it pretty much the same?
This is a living document. These things change. The CIP plan, you also see the asset plan. These are things moving forward that we need to keep in place for our grants and for the state revolving fund. We've had a lot of help from the Florida Rural Water on the next one on there. You'll see on the asset plan, but the CIP plan and both of those are very similar that we need to keep track of. That's a requirement for a lot of grants.
Okay. Any questions about the CIP plan?
Yeah, I do have one. I don't have that in front of me. Jim, refresh my memory, if you will. Does the field and drainage property, recreational complex, is it on that CIP plan?
The new look, man.
And if not, I think that should be a long-range plan for us. Once again, I've said it 100 times.
Yes, sir. It is listed under, what we did was, right now it's listed under, we did, let's see, we've got, we just did sports complex and we list 10th Street, so if it's the wish of the board, we can change that to field of drainage property, or we could do 10th Street and or whatever the wish of the board.
Does it have to have an address?
I just think, moving forward to the future of our city, 10th Street's been a great place. I played ball on it back when I was in Little League, and it's got a lot of history to it, but I do believe it's pretty much outlived its usefulness, and our kids really deserve a nice complex to have, and all our citizens, not just our kids, but to start with a nice ball complex for boys and girls
Mayor, are you wanting to make a change to this, or are you okay with us voting on it as is?
I would love to make sure that Field Green's property is listed under CIP for recreational complex.
So what we could do is if it's the wish of the board, we could scratch through 10th Street and put Field of Dreams if that's the wishes of the board.
I mean,
Just my comment.
yeah, I would almost rather just leave it as sports complex if we can be that vague in the CIP.
My just concern is if we do run into a situation where we need to use that as housing out there, and it's in here as that,
If we just name it sports complex, it could be anywhere.
yeah, it could be. I hate to lock that property in, the Field Green property. That's all my concern.
And Commissioner Lauer, I just can't understand what the fixation is on, especially the county's fixation on us putting workforce housing in Field Green when we have other properties we can put it on, and I really think it'll be a moot issue anyway, with the same company seeing the need for workforce housing, so, I just have to disagree with you there.
Go ahead, sir.
What is the time frame we're working under for approving? Is this something that needs to be done today, or can we postpone
We
it to
can
the following
postpone it
meeting?
if we want to. It needs to be done in the near future on there, but, yes, sir, if there's concerns on this, we can table this thing for you to look at and bring it back the next week.
Yeah, I just think it would be appropriate, being that the mayor is not here and not able to vote.
Jim, the Field of Dreams is listed on the CIP plan. Yes, sir, it is. Item number 5 on page 19.
Page 19, so we've got two different ones on there.
It's in there twice.
It's
Same amount.
Yeah, it is. Funding in 25, 26.
You guys comfortable sitting on this till the next meeting, taking a look at it a little closer?
It can always be changed. I mean, you can change it anytime you want to.
I think it'd be appropriate, being that we just found a mistake, and if we listing it twice, to give us more time to talk about it.
Well, 10th Street is listed and the Field of Dreams is listed. They're both listed, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like more time to discuss it.
We'll table this for a little while. Brett? All right, let's just table it, did you?
Okay, next up, resolution 2021-03, the water and sewer assets.
We want to thank the State Revolving Fund for coming in and helping us out with this. This is an all-inclusive from manholes, covers to fire hydrants. Covers everything throughout our system. Basically, the State Revolving Fund has requested that we have a plan in place with the funding. What they want to be able to do is be able to see the age and what the actual assets are of the city. That way, when we go back for funding requests on there, they can see how this comes into our current assets that we have, that we're making sure we're doing our due diligence for replacement on that.
Well, Jim, I'll tell you, I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, but I have yet to read this document in its entirety. So we're probably gonna have to go with the staff recommendation on this one. Have you reviewed it, and does everything look correct as far as their assets?
It's a living document. Is there some mistakes in there? I would imagine there are some things that have to be changed and brushed up throughout the course of the year. But staff recommendation, this is a good starting point for us to get moving forward with it. And we want to thank the Florida Rural Water. I think Ron's actually here today. Yeah. I want to thank Ron, Gary Williams, and Paul Thompson, and the remainder of the staff for helping us out.
Any discussion amongst commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Motion and a second. Any opposition? Motion passes 4-0.
Resolution 2021-3, a resolution of the city of Port St. Joe, Florida, adopting the water and sewer asset plan, providing for repeal of all ordinances and resolutions and or parts of ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing for effectiveness. That's all I have today, Commissioner.
All right, we're on to old business, Jim.
Yes, sir. First item, COVID-19 update. We did get an update from the health department today. Our positivity rate is down to 10%. So we're trending down. It's good news coming out of the health department today. Right now, they are scheduled to do approximately 600 vaccines on Thursday, is what I was told yesterday from Sarah at the Centennial Building. So vaccines are here in town. We're planning to get those on Thursday. We do have a couple of things we do need to address that we currently are under a moratorium on our buildings. We have the prom that's coming up, so we're getting pushed on it, so we need to make a decision on that. And also to COVID time. The federal government gave COVID time up through the end of the year. I believe there was an extension through March 1. Today is March 2nd. So we need to make some decisions on that as far as payroll, if we're going to extend that time out or if we want to cut it off. Either way, we just need some direction. That way we're in compliance with payroll and the leave time that we have currently in place.
Jim, how many employees do we have currently out?
Currently, we have very few. I don't know if anybody tested positive in the last couple of weeks, so that's good news. We're trending down. We had probably, I would say over 50% of our staff that utilized it at some point this time that was made available. You know, at this point, we just got to make a decision because we have employees that have not used any at all, and some of them maximize their time out. So we just need some.
Jim, what have you given them, 80 hours?
80 hours a week we have this. So we just need to make some decisions for payroll compliance on there, how we're going to do it moving forward. I hope we don't have any more employees that become sick, but right now my recommendation is I would extend it out at least through the fiscal year. That way, because we have some employees that are maxed out, so they'll have to use their sick leave or annual leave. But the ones that have not gotten sick and they happen to get sick in the next couple of weeks, I think we should probably afford them the same opportunity we give for other employees.
I'm fine with that.
So to clarify, Jim, if they have time in their bank, they have to use that first and then the 80 kicks in, or does the 80 kick in before?
80's first. The 80 was federal time, that requirement before you could require an employee to use their sick or annual leave. They got COVID hours, and then they would roll back to their sick or their annual. But if we do away with it, they'll have to automatically do that.
Yeah, that's the only fair way to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
It's not, the city was not and will not be reimbursed. We weren't reimbursed in phase one. So it's only fair to give the other employees that haven't utilized that time, if they were to get COVID or someone in their house or kid and they need to stay home and watch the youngin, I would support extending it through the fiscal year.
All right, no more conversation about it. We can make a motion and do that.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, this was to extend through the fiscal year, correct?
Is that what your recommendation was?
Yes, sir, that would be perfect.
Yes, that's what it
All
is.
right, any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, passes 4-0.
Next item we need to address is going back to the moratorium on the rental buildings. We need to make a decision if we're going to open them up for rentals.
Discussion?
Jim, what did you say the percentage was down to?
The numbers we had today is 10%. It's in the county. Let's see, statewide, I believe we were down to
It was 5 from the state.
5% statewide and 10% here in Gulf County.
What's the recommendation from the health department?
I think they were, before their recommendation was they wanted to see us at 10%, is what they said. You know, I don't think they gave us one way or the other on the rentals itself, but they've said they would love to see 10%.
I think we should open the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all along, we've said we're gonna keep them closed until we were not able to pick a magic number percentage-wise, but I think it's fair to say we all are pretty comfortable with 10%. I am, and I was the one trying to get the number, probably at 15, so, they need to make plans. I think we need to open it up definitely for the prom, for the other, with the understanding if it goes up high again, we would have to revisit it. So,
And I think the mayor was a big champion of closing them down initially, so I'd kind of like to hear the mayor's thoughts.
Commissioner Ashbrook, I'm ready to open them up.
Okay.
That's just the way I feel about it. Something happens, we shut it down right rapidly. So I think, let's open them up and, try to get back home.
All right. Any other comments on the matter? Any Comments from the public, any concern with opening buildings? All right, then I'll entertain a motion. All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any opposition? Motion passes 4-0. Open the buildings back up, Jim.
All right, moving on to new business. First item, July 4th fireworks. Got before you a contract for $15,000. It's the same amount we paid for the show last year. So staff recommendation that we had the same show as last year.
All right. Entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second? Motion and a second, any opposition? All right, motion passes 4-0.
And the last item I have for you today is the current city projects. We've got a lot going on around town, so if you get a few minutes, right around town, look at the progress, look over your list, because things are moving fast.
Moving on to Public Works, tennis court lighting bid.
Yes, we received bids on Friday of last week, opened those bids, we have an appearance row. Spoke to them this morning, they are state licensed, however, they're not gonna be able to provide submittals until next week. So it's just the same to the board, let's wait until the next meeting before I can give you a response based on their submittals. We need to make sure that they're providing what we asked.
Make sure it's apples to apples.
Correct. And I don't have that information yet.
Everybody comfortable with that? All right, let's bring it up at the next meeting.
Is there any questions for me?
No questions? All right, moving on to surface water.
Thank you, sir. I only have one thing for you. The water system has passed the first quarter of state testing for district byproducts. I was gonna let the board know the numbers were real good. And that's all I have for that.
Any questions? All right, thank you, sir. Let's see, on to Larry. I'm sorry, it's her, Larry. How about bring up Kevin?
Yeah, so just a quick update where we are. We still haven't got parts from Germany. We don't know if they're held up. Could be customs. You know, we don't know, and we can't track them. We know they've left Germany, and that's as far as we know. So we shut down this week, got some work going, field, a little bit on the equipment, and more than likely, we'll be back up in there next week. It's running smooth. The half that we're running, so when we get the parts, I expect it to pick back up. So,
You've got an RFP for welding shop project.
yes. Yes. All right, so we got a couple of bids. The low bidder being Monolith, we've already discussed, everybody that's bid came out to look at it. So I think I'd like to go with the low bid. They'll do a fine job.
All right. Gonna need a motion to that effect. The low bidder seems to be Monolith at $6,500. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any opposition? Motion passes 4-0. You get your welding shop.
Thank you. Any questions?
Where is the welding shop if you're looking at the facility from the road?
Because the blue building
Mhm.
is the welding shop.
Okay.
So you got the office, the gray office, and then the blue building off to the left is our welding shop.
Well, when you get caught up with things, I know that right now you got a lot going on. I'd like to see you come before the city commission with a request to go out for bids to clean up that rest of that over on the left. And I know you inherited most of that because some of that equipment's been there for 40 years, it looks like. So I'm not calling you out on it. I just think that we can,
It's okay, I know.
yeah, it's time to.
So the white buildings were supposed to have tore down last weekend, and the guy's gonna do it before the cost of the scrap metal, so it's a freebie for us. Everybody else charges a little bit to do the work, but he didn't make it last weekend, so we got it ready for him, and he didn't show up, so hoping this weekend he'll get there. And that's where we'll start, it's all that white building next to the road, we'll get that stuff tore down first. Then we've gotta start on the stuff along the fence line. So that's where I'm gonna put the equipment, is sitting there while I do the other work. Yeah, there's still a lot to be removed. You know, I've got captain's containers up there now, fill up stuff to do.
And I think if you requested the funding, we'll try and find some of that a little bit at a time if we have to.
Okay, we don't talk about this a lot anymore, but are we still doing any bio dredging?
We are.
How's that working? Is it bringing the levels down or is it keeping them the same?
Well, we look at the quality of the water that's coming out, and what we've got now is, we look at stuff like the demand. How much demand does it take to clean the water? And our demand is the newest low we've seen since I've been there. So we've got lowest demands we've ever seen. So the purity of the water is nice. So we're proud that it's gotten this far. We've got till next February under that contract to finish all the dredging. So it's working, well, it's slow, but it's working, as we had planned. So we're happy with what we see now.
Glad to see it still works.
Yeah, we're still doing it. Any other questions?
All right then.
Thanks, Joe.
Move on to Mike.
The pay station for the boat ramp has shipped. We're not ready for installation yet, so we'll store that in Public Works until we can get the borer and the power and everything ready to go for installation. And then we'll schedule with the company, and their installer will come in when we're sorted and ready to go with installation for the pay station at the boat ramp. But the station itself has shipped. We've received the final payments from FEMA on the $418,000. It took a while, and they did reduce the $418,000, and there were some errors in the submission, and they're sending me that for review, and I'll review that and see if there's anything we can't go back to them on and get the remaining, but it was reduced somewhat. The other issue on the board is do they have the handout for the tennis courts? Okay. All right, so the tennis court and the pickleball conversion at Frank Pate Park. Currently, the tennis courts faces north-south. And when I did the bid, I had the pickleball courts laid out like they're currently playing, east-west. And in discussion with the pickleball players, they asked if it was possible to rotate the courts so that they would be playing north-south. And facing east-west, you have problems with the setting and rising sun. So I talked to the contractor, and he can rotate the courts, no change in the bid specs. And the only issue would be there'd be a little less space between the courts. So it'd only be 5.5 feet between the courts and the fence, whereas the other way it was about 7.5, 8 feet between. But the only issue doing that and rotating the courts to face north-south is both sets of courts would be playing towards each other. So you need something in the middle to keep the balls from rolling onto the other court during active play. So I talked to the contractor, and there's two options. One would be to leave the existing tennis net in place. And then the other option would be to remove the tennis post and put in a fence, basically. So in order to do that, there would be some extra cost associated with that. So the additional cost he quoted us was $3,196 to install a fence in between that wasn't included in the original bid. My thoughts were, I don't think we want to redo the court and then leave the tennis net post there. It wouldn't look right. Even adding the additional $3,196 would still be under any of the other bids for the project, so I don't know how that would come into play. So that was a request from the pickleball players to rotate the courts and to add the fencing in between.
Explain to me why they want to rotate.
Because if they're playing east-west, the sun's rising and setting in their eye level when you're playing was the reason, the sun. And the tennis court guy agrees, normally tennis courts are situated north-south for that reason. And that's probably why our court, the tennis court, is facing basically north-south. So they asked us to rotate the courts.
I'm fine with it, but I giggle because you say the pickleball players said. Well, there's probably one or two that would disagree, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, we're gonna make this change.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a group in here next week telling us that they want to face in the other direction.
Well, I can tell you, I went out and met with them while they were playing. There were some 20 or 30 of them there and had this discussion with them. They were all in agreement at that, meeting face to face. So I think they're all on board and their leadership was there.
Yeah, I've spoken to them over the last 2 years, and that has always been a request, that if you ever redo the courts, can you turn them? And I played down there, and the sun is a major problem in the morning.
Yeah. So I think it would be cleaner to accept the quote for the contractor to do the work. Well, we don't want to have another fence guy come in after he's redone the court and somebody else drilling holes in the court. I don't think that's a good idea.
If we're gonna do it, we probably need to do it right, and even adding that 3,000, the low bidder is still well below the next one.
That's
So
correct.
It's actually quite a savings using this company. Any other comments?
So move forward.
We have a motion, we have a second. We have a motion and a second to accept the low bidder with the fence addition, correct? All right, any opposition? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. I don't have anything else unless anyone has any questions for me.
Any questions? Good to go. All right. Moving on to, I guess, code enforcement.
Sir, we're continuing to move forward with code enforcement. I believe we had advertised for 4 or 5 more hearings coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see those moving forward to you in the near future.
Has Mr. Smiley been in touch with you this month yet?
Mr. Smiley did come by and see me, and he has done a little bit of work over the house, his sister's home. I believe at the last meeting, the board's request was to come back before you the first week meeting in April. So, yes, sir, I believe he has put a tarp on the house, and I believe he's put some metal on the windows.
I rode by there a while ago because I had a conversation with him as well, and it does look a heck of a lot better. Painted it as well. And metal over the windows and such.
I looked at it, it looks good, but, still don't know, where we're gonna go moving forward with this because of, other projects that we've already done, But I think we've done a good job as far as cleaning it up. We'll see.
It's just unfortunate that, our regulations require us to tear it down if it's not habitable. So I hope that he can get it to that point where all this work is for naught.
That was my understanding at the last meeting. The letter that he submitted on behalf, I guess, of the sister was to work towards bringing it actually to code.
Right.
So,
I think we gave it to, what was it, April meeting, to have a plan and, bring it up to code. I think that's what the discussion was.
All right, police department.
I don't have anything unless one of you have questions.
Any questions for chief?
how are you looking on the applications? I saw where you put out your job, notice.
We had, I think we had 3 or 4 before the notice went out, just over the last couple months, random people putting in applications. I don't know if Ms. Charlotte's received any since then. So we're probably sitting at about 3, I think.
All right, any other questions for chief? Moving on, Ms. Charlotte, city clerk.
I don't have anything unless some of you have some questions. We're working on grants, working with our grant administrator to see what, is out there, but we keep plugging along at all of those.
Can we get a reminder on the qualification days for this upcoming election? That's the end of March, right? Last week of March, it's qualifying.
I will get that to you. It's in May,
Okay,
qualifying. I think we get it to the paper on the 11th.
okay. All right, let's see here. We got citizens to be heard. Anybody in the audience? Come on forward. If you please print your name and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you for the time. William Morrison, 202 St. Joseph Drive. It may have been addressed, but I'm inquiring with regards to standing water in our neighborhood. We have, during the rainstorms, what is happening now is that the water levels are now reaching the homes. And we have a series of 5 homes on St. Joseph's and one on the parallel street behind us, where we are now, we have waterfront property during rainstorms, which is nice, but not nice. So there may be a project. My inquiry is there a project to address that? We believe that there's a drainage issue along the street where, because of the hurricane, that we believe that some of the pipe has been blocked. But I'm looking for some direction and some input.
Well, we've got good and bad news. The good news is we do now possess a engineered plan for a stormwater runoff. Dewberry has that up to Northwest Florida Water Management to look at right now, so we'll have a plan citywide for how the water drains. If you fix a flood in one area, it just causes it down further down the road. So we need this master plan. The bad news is none of that's funded yet. So the projects that we come up with, we're gonna have to start going after grants and funding for them. And Jim, if I'm saying any of this wrong, jump in.
Yes, you're correct. And St. Joseph Drive unfortunately took a tremendous amount of water during Hurricane Michael. I think some of the folks in there had 8-10 foot of water in their house themselves. And a lot of our yards have settled too. Looking at the area, the public works just went through and cleaned out a lot of the ditches. But a lot of the yards unfortunately have settled because they were inundated with water that was, and a lot of the houses sustained substantial damage that was beyond 50%. So the houses, at this point, a lot of the newer houses are having to be elevated. They either got to have an engineer come back and say that you can even put the house back together, or you got to do flood proofing. So it's been a tremendous lot of water in there. I'll get the guys to look at it and see if there's anything can be done potentially in it. But a lot of our yards, unfortunately, have sunk down in town, and it's like we have St. Joe Bay mud in a lot of our houses and yards.
This is Roy Brock, my neighbor. He's on the coordinating corner of that too, so Roy, maybe you got a comment?
My lot is a house I purchased from Mr. Bill White. You probably know him, he used to run heating and air conditioning service here. It sustained, as you say, a fair amount of damage. Water came up during Hurricane Michael, but nevertheless, my wife likes the house, and so we're trying to make it livable. And last weekend, we had a lot of water. And I looked out, I think Ms. Morrison looked out onto a lake in the front yard. There is about a 2.5 foot ditch across the front of my house to catch road water that comes down. Unfortunately, there's no place for it to go because the property owners have been left to be responsible for the drainage, it seems like. And some of them have put in a pipe across the front of their property and filled in the ditch. Now the pipe is blocked from dirt and whatever collects in the ditch. And so it has no place to drain. Last weekend, the end of DuPont Drive, where it merges into the 98, was so deep in water that my wife was afraid to drive across it. And it's a continuing problem, I'm sure, because the city, I assume, has installed a temporary try-to-fix-it approach. They've cut a sump, it looks like, with a big green pipe sticking down in the ground and a large pump to pump the water out of the ground, and I assume it goes across into the bay.
Yeah, that's actually, I think what you're looking at the corner, there's actually a lift station on that. We don't have any pump.
Well, I've got a picture of it with my cell phone this morning.
If if we can get y'all's contact information, what we'll do is we'll come out and take a look.
But it's at the end of DuPont where it
That's a list.
merges into,
That's a, yes, that's a list.
and on the eastern side of DuPont, there is a green pipe about 1.5 feet in diameter and sticking up 3 or 4 feet above the ground. And there's a large industrial pump sitting beside that green pipe with a big orange pipe coming out of it. And it looks like it's draining across the construction site into the bay. Now, I don't know where, I really don't know that because I didn't get out and examine where the pipe goes, but it appears to be a pump.
What they're trying to say is that that's actually pushing sewer to the sewer plant, not stormwater.
That's not one, okay.
It's not going back into the bay, the city has.
But what we'll do, gentlemen, we'll have staff come out and take a look. If it's an obstruction or something that we can easily fix, we'll do that. If it's an engineering issue, again, it comes down to, we need to get some funding to do that project. And then we have to look at prioritization of streets. There's a lot of streets in your same area.
It's not just affecting us,
Right,
you know,
it is.
yeah, Sunset, they're all getting it at the same time. We're just knee deep, we put our 2 cents in.
I got you.
The
Appreciate it.
biggest-
Close.
The biggest problem we have too is we're so tight on the fluid. If you look at it, if you look at the tides,
Yeah.
what the tide is, if we get a tremendous amount of rain and it's high tide, what happens is the bay comes up and a lot of our stormwater flows into the bay and there's nowhere for it to go. So we try to make sure the ditches be cleaned out and we need to go check them out. But if the ditches are all clean and the water's up, you got a extremely high tide on a full moon, there's nowhere for it to go till low tide.
Yeah,
We'll come check
Well,
it
yeah,
out.
and we do believe that there's obstruction, there may be a simple short-term fix based on what you're doing, but
Just get your phone numbers from the gentleman and we'll come out and talk.
great, thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Any other citizens to be heard? Come on up.
I'm Willie Mae Williams, thank you.
Make sure you sign in. Get you on the record.
I'm at the city, they, let me bring my home in, that's what I didn't understand, so. I got a home, a trailer.
Can we ask you to, I can't hardly hear you. There you go.
A trailer that I was putting on my property on Avenue E. Come to find out it's a trailer, not a model,
And what's the address, ma'am?
233 Avenue E.
Well, I'll tell you, there's only one, well, now 2 areas in town that allow mobile homes. There's a small block of property on Avenue A and Harbor. The only places that it's allowed. We were kind of dreading this day, but I think we all knew eventually that if we make an exception in one place, that it will come back and bite us. I'm not exactly sure what direction to go with this. I'm gonna open it up to everyone's comments now at this point.
I'll remind the board, I believe me and Commissioner Lowry voted no, because, and I'll tell you why I voted no for an exception earlier. I suggested that if any neighbor says no, then my vote would be no, because it has an impact to the other neighbor's property value. We received a letter from a neighbor that said no, and I stood firm and voted no. But I say that to tell you that being that we did entertain the exception, I will support giving you the same opportunity. That if your neighbors in that area are 100% on board with it, I don't think it's fair to tell this lady, no, we're not gonna go down that road. And we did it in the last year. So I'm open to at least reaching out to the neighbors that would have an impact. And if we have information that someone is opposed to it, I don't mind telling you now that I'll vote against it. If the neighborhood all comes and says we're okay with it, then I think you'd have a much better chance.
You know, and it's our job as commissioners to protect the public physically and protect property values as well. But if your neighbors waive that right for us to protect their property values, then, and I'm not opposed to it, like Commissioner Hoffman said, if everyone else is on board in the neighborhood that would be affected by by a mobile home, and they're okay with it, then I would be okay with it. And I think that that's at least where I think two of us stand at this point.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Hoffman in voting, if we did vote no. And because I knew it would open up a can of worms, and we would get several more of these.
That's what happens when we open our hearts.
But, I'm to the point where, you know, it's hard to tell somebody no, you know, in this circumstance.
Now
that
the preach
it's
that we
allowed.
need affordable housing, and that's a more affordable option.
So,
I agree that if you get a petition, get neighbors to sign, a petition saying that, it's okay. And I like to say this too, you know, we're trying to clean up the neighborhood, you know, and people don't have anywhere to stay. So, while we own this, we need to think about finding more areas for this type of, to allow, trailers to come in. You know, I know we have two already, but I think, it's time to start thinking outside the box. People they've got their property and land and everything, and can't afford to build a home, especially, with the prices these days, you know. Rental homes, like I said, you can't find anywhere to rent. The homes are expensive, so, maybe we need to start thinking more outside the box. And, I voted yes the last time, this came up. I understand how Mr. Hoffman feels about the neighbors, I do too. But I also think that people need somewhere to stay. I mean, and, if the trailers, meets all the codes, you know, as far as cement, or whatever needs to be poured on the foundation, I think it should be allowed.
It sounds like this board is willing to entertain the idea. I think the first step would be to get a petition around to your neighbors or get some letters of support from the neighbors. And then inevitably, it's gonna have to have a public hearing because we're gonna have to change the zoning, which is gonna give the public another opportunity to come either before or against it. If we get through all those hoops and no one's complaining, you know, I can see this happening for you, but I think that first step is to just kind of show us that the neighbors are okay with it.
Okay, well, I already asked them, most of them around the block, and they signed what I had, and signed it.
Okay.
How many names need to be on the petition?
Honestly, if they could be affected, if their property value could be affected by a mobile home being placed there, we need to hear from them. So, there is no answer.
So
I
they
mean,
need to come to, here?
no ma'am, if we can get a petition signed, if we could get that, if you can turn that in, Jim, what would their next step be, I guess? To request officially a zoning change?
What you have is right now, temporary structures are prohibited except for in a couple of areas. Harbor Street, if you have frontage on Harbor Street, or the 300 block of Avenue A is what you did before. So what you would have to consider is, right off the bat, is for the advertising thing, would you consider strictly this parcel of land, or would you look at a whole block? That's what the board's got to consider on there, is what kind of ask you want to advertise for.
And I think that we would all probably want to consult with our attorney before we make that decision. So maybe we can get you on the agenda at our next meeting, and we'll talk about the steps going forward. Okay? Thank you. Any others?
Sure. I'll take it. I don't
Yeah, if you can turn that into the clerk. Unless you want to make copies and bring it to her.
Yeah, we better get a copy.
Okay, you can drop it
I
at City
think-
Hall.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public? Come on up, sir. I didn't see you sitting there in your camouflage.
My reason for here is actually just a conversation that I would like to see us start. And it's about the CRA. The CRA in past has been conducted pretty much by our city commissioners. And I would love to see us go forward with a conversation as to how we can set up a new CRA board and include citizens that would be primary members of that board, instead of just relying totally upon the city commission. And like I said, somewhere we need to start the conversation, at least talk about how we can do it, and maybe get some input from our community as to how that board should be established. I have no issues with the way it has set up in the past, but going forward, I think we have some years left on the CRA, on the north side over there. So when we set up the board, I would love to have our citizens have some type of participation in the decision of the CRA.
All right, and I agree 100%. I think that there has to be some changes made at this point. You know, we're not making any revenues at this point. So we kind of need to figure out, you know, when we come back, when we start generating TIF funds, what are we going to look like? You know, and this is only me personally, just myself, but I would like to see the board made up of more people that actually live within the CRA boundaries. I do still think that there needs to be oversight. I think that someone from this board should be a part of that board or chairing that board. But I would like to see more public participation. And there are certain things that we can do without funds. We can petition this board, you know, to incentivize certain business types to come into that neighborhood as well. So there are things that we can do shy of someone's payroll. You know, we just don't have the money for it.
Well, one of the reasons that's going to be very pertinent to what we're doing is based upon the fact that we want to start inviting businesses to come. Somewhere down the line, the PAC is going to have to go out and petition landowners about partnering with actually practicing sharing, not only with the community, but businesses that might want to come in. If we open up that, we want to make sure that the CRA will be able to accept some of that, you know, as a fundraising thing for our community. So we're putting out some words that we want to really bring in some new businesses to Northwest St. Joe.
But in my opinion, Chester, the next step is, first of all, our board has to meet again. And we have to change our bylaws to allow us to transfer the remaining funds to the other CRA or to the other area. When that's finished, I'd love to see us entertain a workshop to kind of see what's our focus now. You know, when we do start generating funds, what is that plan?
Okay.
So I think that that's coming probably this quarter sometime.
Thank you, that's what I need.
Any other public wish to speak? All right, we'll move on to commissioners. Commissioner Hoffman.
So I have two quick items. The first thing I'd like is just I'd like to point out that when we heard from the county attorney, I heard Mr. Novak say that the last time we had a workshop or public hearing and public input about an annexation, it was the room was full of people. I want to make sure that we stay clear on one point, and that is what the city is moving forward with and comparing that to the Highland View project. That's two different topics. So we're talking about, and what I'm envisioning is an annexation that would offer the opportunity for affordable housing and workforce. It has nothing to do with private business, private condominiums. So I don't want to muddy the water, and I'm not going to allow it to be muddied and go in a different direction. So I want to clarify that. The other item is I had a question asked of me that I didn't know how to answer, and it was in regards to the public purchasing benches for the cemetery or cemeteries, and they were, it's my understanding they were put on hold, and I'd like some information as to what this project is and what it does.
Would you like for me to address that? Several years ago, we did not have benches. We put 4 benches, the city and a couple funeral homes. People began to inquire about purchasing one. Well, the project did extremely well. The problem now at Holly Hill, you're into the root system of, or what I would call the choir section. If you were in a church, you know, your speaker and then your choir. We don't have the manpower right now to do that. We order them from a company who sends them to us. Jimmy Griffin has put all of them together. The people pay, it was around $350 per bench. So then the issue at Forest Hill, their community, you know, has certainly stepped up and they want to buy benches. Again, we're back to, we've just bought the canopy to cover those that are there, space. There may be a little more, but by the time you pull Mr. Jimmy off of everything that he does to stop, to go assemble them, put them together, we just, since the hurricane, we have not had the manpower. I do have a list. And every time someone calls, I write the date, their name, their contact number, and assure them if we move forward and when we move forward, they will be contacted. We've had people who are interested in Forest Hill. We've had a number of people from the Holly Hill, people who want to put something there in memory of their families. Unless we're directed, you know, to go a different area, we're out of space pretty much in one area and looking at manpower for both issues.
Well, and what I would, and thank you for the update, and that's the
Yes,
way
sir.
I'm trying to be clear in my mind what it is. It sounds to me like the if and when needs to be now. So let's move forward with, and I think that there's more than one option of just building more benches and trying to cram them in a tighter space. I think the city needs to move forward in expanding the property that we own and maybe have another area for grave sites. And that may solve part of the problem. I think the other part is Jimmy is an amazing carpenter, but he's not the fastest carpenter. So he has a long list of things to do. He does great work. We may have to go out for bids on that. But I would like some information maybe at our next meeting on how many acres the city has available. Can we expand into that adjoining area? And then that may solve the bench problem by having more space available.
Commissioner, I believe the city owns between the railroad and the chain link fence. To me, it would be to the west of Holly Hill.
Right.
We do own that. We're looking at perpetual care, which has really never taken off. Previous boards have approved it. We're very close to starting to use that and make it places for 8, 4, 2. We're pretty good on the 1 spaces right now, but we will be probably before the year's end moving to that for cemetery plots. We've already worked through it with the board. Jimmy has it the way he wants it to know which goes where. But people have been very supportive of the benches. Both cemeteries, no doubt, but yes, sir, it took off real fast when it started.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, why it was a benefit, and from what I gather, it's very affordable. So
it was when we did it, yes,
yeah,
sir.
we're just not able to keep up.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, you know, when those pavilions were constructed, nobody planned for 200 benches to go around. So they were put in a small space, and now you're just starting to stack. So I think that's a good point. If you do something on a larger scale, we should plan for something a little more conducive to, you know, just pods and benches all around.
And then we probably all need to go take a look at it, figure out how much seed do we need. It's really taken off. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of deaths in our community in the last couple of years. Holly Hill is getting pretty full. We're moving to perpetual care. We need to look at trying to open up another section beyond that fence. And with that comes that a lot of funerals now with COVID are being held outside at the cemetery. So we should figure out how we want to.
Jim, do we have any as-built drawings with tree locations and bench locations that are currently out there?
I'll go back and see what I can find. I know that there was some engineering work done a couple of years ago with the property that shows outside of the fence itself. as far as what we have as built on the beaches that we have put into place, I don't think we have.
You probably just had a plan, we could draw them in ourselves and see kind of where we stand right now.
Currently, if a person wants to purchase, space, is it a requirement that that person is a Gulf County resident?
No, sir. If you have lived here, if you have family buried here, we will work with them on it. Someone that does not live here, that has, it got to be an issue. People from outlying counties were coming over because the cemetery plots were not as expensive as they were in other areas. There was a motion, a vote by the board that there were certain requirements that would be reviewed. But if you have family in the cemetery, if you've ever lived here, then you are permitted to purchase. And the perpetual care section, you know where the pump house is, the only masonry building out in,
Yes.
from there back to the fence, more of a northerly direction is where. And you'll notice there's some around the outside, but we have worked with those. They will remain where they are. But we'll take the inside of it to move forward with. And we have plenty of room at Forest Hill.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't having funeral homes from Bay County come over and
No,
buy
sir.
40 plots.
No, sir. That was
We tried to address
eliminated.
that years ago because we were concerned, if you start looking around the prices on plots in some of these outlying communities, or especially your larger cities, it's a lot more expensive. Y'all done a good job of keeping the prices low for our community, and it was addressed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right, Eric?
All I have is, I've been watching, put the pavilion up in the back of, Washington, Decoration Center. I think they're doing a wonderful job. It's in the perfect spot, I think, and, it's just, it's a good thing for the community. That's all I have.
Brett?
Good, glad to be back.
I've just got a couple quick things. One, the golf cart bridge there on 18th and 19th Street by Paul. Looks like it's being built in a different area, and I hear some phone calls have already started on that. What's the story? It's not going back where it was, it doesn't look like. It's going right in front of somebody's driveway.
We encountered some problems with power lines and actually, the offsetting of it on there. John's been working with the contractor the last couple of days to try to put it back in the exact spot. He run into a couple of issues, I'll let John explain.
I know Duke is great at removing the line for a minute and then putting it
They
back up.
are, and there were various reasons, upon moving it to where it was to begin with. So at this point, we've halted the contract on all work until we can get together, the board, the mayor, whoever wants to be part of this, and let's sit down and talk about it, so I can explain some issues, get your input. It can very much go right back to where it is, but there's going to be some differences, and I think it's important we all know that.
Okay.
So at this point, all work is ceased on it.
Yeah, I was just asked to bring that up because it was going somewhere that we didn't vote on it to go. We were worried about that.
Well, and that's what we want to get to, let you guys vote on where you want.
Okay, perfect. Last thing, Scout Hut, Jim.
So,
No air conditioning, hole in the ceiling. We've got some insurance money left over. Can we help before these kids burn up there this summer?
I think what we gotta do is make some decisions on there. I don't think we got any money, we forgot
No,
about it.
that got dropped.
As far as insurance and FEMA, we forget about the scout building on there. So what we need some guidance on there. If the board wants us to go out and bid for air conditioner roof, whatever the case may be, just let us know and we'll put it out to bid. But as far as capturing money for FEMA on that, no, sir, I don't think we did.
No, sir.
No, and my intent was just to use that insurance money that hasn't been earmarked yet. If the board's okay with it, I'd love for you to bring back at least some quotes so we can look at it.
What would you like for us to bring back quotes on?
The air conditioning and the drywall, I mean, the roof leaked, they fixed that. So now the roof stopped leaking, but the drywall was soaking wet and it's falling down.
Drywall.
Put a scope of work together and go out for bid on that.
Okay, let's go, I tell you what, let's go take a look at it and
Yes,
see what we
please.
got in there.
And that's all that I have. This meeting is adjourned. It's official.